Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name is Diana Sanchez, and I'm with the TCU Alumni Association. I'm here with Hallie Crawford, a certified career coach and founder of Create Your Career Path, and Terrence Hood, career consultant for TCU Alumni. I'm super excited to have you all join us. We're going to give everyone a couple of minutes to get logged in before we get started with our special guest, Hallie Crawford, who will talk to us about salary negotiation.
Big topic. And we all need to paint our walls purple like Terrence.
And fill it with athletics posters. And Hallie, thanks so much for being here. We appreciate it.
You're welcome. There's a lot going on for a lot of people. So this is an important, very important topic. So happy to do so. And Diana, so that you know, I have both the Q&A and the chat box open too, so I can monitor those.
Sounds good.
Yeah. And if I do post something in the chat, if I do post something in the chat, if it doesn't go to everyone, if you could just make sure that it does, that'd be great.
I will do that.
Is that any better, Terrence? If I talk is it better?
It's about the same, and it might just be my Zoom. It's like I can hear, but it's like I'm static in the like a robot or something.
Oh
But
dear.
still can hear everything, but it's a little bit of static in the game. It might just be my Zoom.
Okay. Yeah, because it sounds like with Robbie, it sounds okay.
Okay, so I think we'll go ahead and get started. My name is Diana Sanchez. I'm with the TCU Alumni Association. I'm here with Hallie Crawford, certified career coach and founder of Create Your Career Path, and Terrence Hood, career consultant for TCU Alumni. We're super excited to have you all join us. Hallie, do you want to introduce yourself and a little bit about what you do?
Yeah, I'll take it away. And someone else just said in the Q&A box that they can hear okay too. So I think we're good to go. And we should be recording today as well. So, but anyway, Shannon, thanks for letting us know about the audio. I will say really quickly oops, I didn't mean to go that quickly. Hold on. As we get started today talking about salary and benefits negotiation and some of the basics, but also some of the fine tuning with that today. I do like my throat is a little scratchy just because I'm in Atlanta and my allergies kind of kick up this time of year. So thanks for your patience if I sound a little funky. So we're going to be talking about salary and benefits negotiation and talking about all the different things that we can negotiate, excuse me, whether it's during interview process, if you're in job search mode, but also talking about this topic as it relates to asking for a promotion and all of these other good things too. So quick introduction to me. I'm a certified career coach, speaker, and author. My company is based in Atlanta, Georgia, but we have coaches in different parts of the country, including in Texas. I've been coaching and training since 2002. I have an undergraduate degree from Vanderbilt University and a master's degree from the University of Illinois. And the advice that we're going to give you all today is advice that we give to all of our clients to help them get more comfortable with negotiating, but also understand, what do they need to say? What do they not need to say? How do they prepare in advance? And what can they do during the course of the conversation as well? And we try to give a lot of helpful information during these webinars. And I don't want you to feel overwhelmed. So please, if you could say to yourself, choose one action step that makes the most sense for you to take in the next week, for example. And then as a quick reminder, you can revisit the recording later because you will get a copy of the recording automatically. And also, there is an opportunity, and I will put this in the chat box right now, but Diana may need to share it with everybody because I'm not sure if I have that ability. But we're going to put a link in the chat box where you can download the slides too. So you can revisit those later, okay? So pick one thing that makes the most sense for you and your situation, how you feel about negotiating, and kind of where you're at in terms of the whole process. So let's talk first about a couple of things to kind of set the stage. So there are a lot of understandable challenges that people feel or encounter with negotiation. I think I've probably had a handful of people in the course of my coaching career for over 20 years say, I love negotiating. But the bottom line is not everyone does, and a lot of people are uncomfortable with it. Some of the challenges that people encounter are this sense of imposter syndrome. For example, am I really qualified for this job? Do I really know what I'm doing? So imposter syndrome is one of the things that people sometimes have that sense of, and therefore don't negotiate at all or for as much as they could. Some people, if you look at this slide in the second bullet point, just flat out get nervous going into any type of negotiating situation. And it's normal. This is totally, I think this should be on our top 10 list of one of the most stressful things in life, up there with public speaking, right? And then other people will tell us too, I'm not sure how to ask and what to say. And some of our clients tell us all of the above. So you're not alone being here today if you have any of these obstacles, hesitations, or concerns. It's totally normal. And the first thing that we want to say to kind of set the stage with this is that your goal with a negotiation is not for it to be, I talk, they talk, it's a yes or no, and then that's it, right? Your goal is to try to set the stage at the beginning of the conversation and throughout that you're wanting to have an open, direct, two-way conversation. I'm going to tell you what I would like and what I would think, but I would like to hear from you what's possible and if that's feasible. It's not just a I win and you lose or vice versa. It's more of a win-win situation, and you're trying to establish the right tone so that you can let them know, like, hey, I'd like to talk about this. This is what I'm asking for. And maybe you've got some wiggle room in a good way that you want to have an open conversation about it. The second thing to know is that managers expect negotiation. Now, I will tell you there are certain jobs like entry-level positions, usually a little bit less negotiation going on there. But the majority of the time, if you look at these statistics on this slide, most managers, not just senior managers, but managers, say they expect negotiation from a candidate. And most people, not as high as I would like, since it's only 55%, but at least more than half, they try negotiating for a higher salary or some kind of benefit. And we don't want you to feel hesitant to ask, because if you don't ask, the answer for sure is going to be no, right? So let's look at our agenda for today. We're going to give you 10 tips to help you prepare for your negotiation, because there's a lot of preparation that needs to happen in order for you to feel comfortable, but it also boosts your confidence as well. And that's part of why the preparation can be so valuable and important. We'll talk to you about how to make the ask. We'll discuss topics to negotiate along the way. We will have time for Q&A at the end today for sure. But as we progress, please feel free to put any comments, resources, or questions, because I'm happy to pause along the way in either the chat box or the Q&A box. Ideally, questions can go into the Q&A box, but either way is fine. And we would love to hear from you about comments, suggestions, thoughts that you have, as well as questions. And like I said, I'll pause as we go. All right, so let's dive in. So first of all, the three steps that we want you to take in order to negotiate for both salary and benefits are listed on this slide. So three kind of overarching goals. Number one is the preparation, and we'll talk a lot about this today. But first, you want to identify what your goals are, what you would like to ask for, and ideally what you would like to get towards in terms of the salary, the benefits, etc. In terms of preparation too, reviewing your accomplishments, going through your resume again, reviewing testimonials and kudos from people to share during the course of the conversation, if that's appropriate to do so, but also to help you feel more confident. You want to conduct your research, and it's a really good idea to have some kind of notes for yourself, or even in some cases, depending on the situation, again, you may want to have a quick document that you're like, here are the 5 reasons why I deserve this promotion, or why I'm asking for this increase in compensation or negotiating the salary. The second thing that we want people to do that we actually find most people don't do, that's listed in the second column here on this slide, is we want you to prepare in advance for the red flags, meaning the concerns that the employer or your current boss, if it's a promotion, might have, the concerns or objections. Well, you're not quite ready for this or whatever it is. So it's a really good idea also to prepare in advance for those so that A, you weave them into your story and making your case in the first place, but also B, if they do still bring them up at the end or afterwards, you've got something ready to go and ready to say, right? Because if someone says this, it typically throws us off guard and then we don't know what to say. So anticipating that red flags is a big one. And then finally, last but not least, in terms of preparing overarching in a big picture sense, is you really need to walk in there being confident. Communicate effectively, communicate assertively. You may have the best case in the world, but if you are not coming across as confident and assertive in your ask, it's not going to go nearly as well, okay? So let's talk about some of these with identifying your goal first, and then we'll hop into our 10 tips. So your goal for what you'd like to achieve through the negotiation can be situation and career stage dependent. So remember that this is why we coach with our clients, is usually we have to help them figure out what's the right salary range to ask for, et cetera, et cetera. So if it's a job offer, for example, or if it's a promotion. So are you asking for a raise or promotion? Or are you asking for example, from your current boss, like, hey, I'd like to get some more experience or, different kind of exposure to different projects. You can also ask for in a promotion or with a new possible job, if you'd like to get some flex time or you'd like to have some remote work or, that next challenge, you want to make sure that you're able to work with X client. So don't just think about benefits and salary as the only things to negotiate for. In some cases, we might be negotiating for the next step in our career. Like, I really want to be at this organization because they do A, B, C projects in this type of way. And that's what I want to make sure I'm able to hop onto or get onto that project. Okay. And then in some cases, you might want to negotiate for education or education dollars. So when you're identifying your goal, and by the way, you can use AI and ChatGPT to help you with ideas for your goals, you still want to consider the right situation for you, whether you're paid well at your current organization or paid like under market or vice versa, right? What's appropriate given what's going on within the organization and the industry, what career stage you're in, and what's needed for you next. So when you're identifying your goals, keep a lot of these different things in mind and take those into consideration. As part of identifying your goal and your ask, what you want to be asking for, we encourage you to take a quick look at our ideal career model. If you've attended a webinar with us before, you've seen this. This is our model that we developed in like 2003 in order to help people clarify and understand what the right job fit was for them. It also helps people understand their brand as well, but identify the right goals for themselves. So when you're looking at the model, you can say to yourself, is there anything that I want to negotiate for, like to do my work in a different way or perform tasks in a different way or work on a specific project or something, for example, that might be more fulfilling and rewarding to me or be a better use of my strengths. When you're negotiating too, you may want to ask for education dollars or part of like payment for a certification that you'd like to get or whatever it is. Additional experience in some way, shape, or form. So these are the main ones that you're going to be looking at, as well as compensation, obviously, but it's also about healthcare. It's also about, in some cases, work environment. Like, do you want to work from home 1 day a week or have that flex time? So it can be really helpful just to make sure when you're identifying your goals with your negotiation to cover all of your bases here and say, okay, is there anything else that I might be willing to accept if, for example, they can't get me to exactly the salary that I want to be at? So one of our clients in Philadelphia, she actually, this was a situation for her recently, and they were about, when she was negotiating for her salary, they were about $2,000 apart. And they went back and forth about it. And at the end of the day, the organization said, okay, this is our stopping point. It's the highest end of our budget. So what she did was say, okay, I can accept that. But can I work from home like every other Friday or every Friday? Saves money on gas, wear and tear on car, all that good stuff. And they accepted that. So this is where you want to get a little bit creative with your negotiation. So let's move now into our 10 tips. And these are specific things to help you prepare, but also track your accomplishments as part of the preparation and making the ask. So one of the things that it's a really good idea to do before you go into this meeting or conversation is to write down all of your accomplishments professionally that would be relevant for what you're asking for, the job that you're applying to, for example, or the promotion that may not be on your resume, or some of them might be, but you need to get into better detail or find out what those results were in those numbers. And we like for, if you look at the left-hand side of the slide, we like for our clients to have an accomplishments document that they keep on the desktop of their computer so that they can keep it accessible and it's easy to update it. So for example, measurable results, testimonials or compliments you get could go in there. Awards, classes, anything else that when people go to update their resume, they're like, oh, I forgot this one thing. This accomplishments document will help you remember everything that you want to remember, but also those details. And it's a good idea after you've created this, you may want to like keep it open for the next week, for example, and start to write those in as they come to mind for you. But you want to identify what are the top like 5 to 7 things, give or take, that you want to reference during the course of the negotiation when you're making your ask. Tip number 2 is to review and update your LinkedIn profile. Now, if you're applying for a new job, you've already done this, right? But what you want to be thinking about as part of this, and if you're in the situation, for example, today where you're going for a promotion, you want to update your materials just as if you were applying for a new job, because part of doing this work helps you boost your confidence, but get clear on your ask and your qualifications. So you want to ask yourself and write down all of your accomplishments, including those soft things, those soft skills too. The tangible results, the things you've learned, data analysis, all that other good stuff is really important. But you also want to articulate, like, I'm really good at leading teams in person or remotely. Remember that I'm great at change management. Here's my example. And I know I'll be able to do that for your organization because that's your situation. And as part of this, you want to make sure that your materials, both LinkedIn and resume, reflect all of your updated accomplishments. So we'd love to do our first poll here if we could, and I'll answer a question that came through as well. Do you keep your resume and LinkedIn up to date on a relatively regular basis? We're not saying like every single day necessarily, but at least like to a certain extent that it's not hard for you to go back. And remember, as we're conducting this poll, you want to make sure that you've updated everything to personalize it for that position that you want to go for. So for example, let's just say you're going for a promotion and your boss asks for your most up-to-date version of your resume. And that, like, as one possible example, you want to make sure that you don't just hand it over, but that you talk about your leadership strengths and everything else that would be new and relevant to that job that you're going for. We'll give you a moment to complete the poll. And we've got a question that came through, which is great. What do I recommend to put in as an answer when filling out an application and you need to, or they're asking you your salary expectations? Is it okay to put something like negotiable, would like to learn more about role responsibilities in order to make an informed decision? I think this is in some cases okay to do. My preference typically is to say that after you've secured an interview, for example, and give more of a range, at least to have some kind of range in there that you know is going to be reasonable based on the research that you do, which is part of what we'll talk about. And then after that, you could put negotiable, open to discussion. So my preference is to have at least something so that it's not just totally wide open. It's a great question. Thanks for asking. So we'll give you a second to finish the poll. And I'm going to go ahead to our next slide too, so that you can take a look at this as part of this as well. Okay, how are we doing with our poll results? I think it's probably okay to share them. All right, cool. Oh, this is so good. I love these numbers. I'm really glad that we've got 74% that do. I understand if part of why that's the case is with everything going on with the economy and everything else, but it's a good habit to get into over time. And if you don't, the 26%, you're not alone. This happens. It's totally normal. This could be one of the really good action steps that you take for yourself and say, okay, look, put an item or a task on your calendar for every quarter, for example, that you take 5 minutes to update it. It shouldn't take that long if you keep it more up to date. Let's take a look at tip number 3, and there's another good question that came through too. So when you're walking into the negotiation or preparing for it in advance, I should say, you do want to make sure that you read the room of what's going on within your organization, within the organization you're applying to, within the industry. How are things going? Can you ask for, the higher end of the range, or should you be asking for a little bit lower or in the middle? We always want people to go towards the higher end so that you've got that wiggle room, of course. But you need to also be realistic about everything too. So make sure you're taking that into consideration. And as part of being prepared with the second item on this slide here at the bottom, you also want to be thinking about if they can't get you to the place that you want to be salary-wise, etc., would you accept flex time, remote work, a title change, or something else like that? Okay, so think about those other alternatives just in case. And sorry about the slides link if it's an issue. I will see if I can get that fixed and sorted out in a moment, but there will be a QR code at the end of this today too, where you can scan them. So thanks for letting me know about that. So quick question, and then we'll get to tip number 4. If you're transitioning into a new industry after completing a graduate degree, how do you make the accomplishment list relevant? List your accomplishments from your degree as much as you possibly can. So if you've just completed a degree, my advice is that the coursework that you completed is valid and relevant. The projects that you worked on, I would put those down. So consider your work history or experience to include what you've been doing during graduate school as well. Okay, great question. Let's look at salary research and tip number 4. So here's one of the things we'd recommend you do. If you look at the left-hand side of the slide first, it's a really smart idea to not just research the standard salary, and there are websites here like Glassdoor, Indeed.com, PayScale, etc. And you can also use AI to do a little bit of salary research too. We want you to research the role or job that you're going for, but also research your current position as well. Because some people know, for example, like I'm in this role and I know my company pays a lot more than market rate, but some people don't. So it's important and helpful to research both roles, current and your desired. The websites listed on the right-hand side of this slide can be helpful for that. The Bureau of Labor and Statistics is another great resource for salary ranges and comparisons. We also encourage you to ask other people at other organizations if what you're asking for is within the reasonable range. You don't have to go to them and say, how much money do you make? Or if I'm asking for this, is that right? You can say, I'm asking for a range, in this 2 to 3,000, give or take. Do you think that's reasonable if you have a sense of things? And when you are in the process of negotiation, so we'll jump a little bit today with preparation, but also what you could say in the moment. It's okay to ask at a reasonable time, not at the very beginning of the interview process, but what is the salary range for the position if they haven't brought it up yet? And as part of that, when you're making your ask, it's okay to say, I'm asking for this, but then right away say, is this within the range for the position? Don't just say, I'm asking for this, and they say yes or no. You're encouraging that dialogue and that conversation and letting them know just by even saying that you are open to discussion, okay? So see if the slides link works now and there. And if not, like we said, QR code will come up in a little bit. We had another question that was great. If they want a specific number, like in a LinkedIn app, yes. For salary, what do you enter? So if it's possible to enter a range, we prefer that. But if they want a specific number, I would go towards like the middle of the range. Based on your research, don't go to the very bottom. I wouldn't go quite to the top. I'd go to the top end of the middle of the range, okay? That would be my suggestion there. And usually with our clients too, we do a little bit of research. We try to have conversations with people, but we also talk about what your background and your experience is. Because if you're less experienced than some other people, you can't be asking for the exact top end of the range. Part of what you can ask as like tangential to or part of your salary research too is along or during the course of the interview process, you can be asking, and I would suggest this, it's okay to ask about salary range, but make sure that you ask about the benefits, the comprehensive benefits package offered. Because in some cases, you may be having trouble, or you might be like okay with a lower salary because you might need, for example, you're having health issues or troubles that you want better health insurance. So just know that you want to think about these other things and think about it in big picture. And when you are adding up for your own edification, what you actually make in terms of your compensation as a whole, include your benefits as well. What would be the cost of your health insurance and everything else? Now, legally, in a lot of states, employers are not allowed to ask you what you currently make. Sometimes they do anyway, but regardless, you need to be thinking about what your current benefits and salary are so that you know, again, where you fall on the range. And just in case, when you're thinking about like a remote job and perhaps other jobs that have larger benefits outside of the compensation, they may just tend to pay less. So for example, Georgia Pacific here in Atlanta is known for, they tend to not pay as well salary-wise, but they have better benefits and people just kind of know that. So you don't want to just go into something expecting and demanding the top end of the range. Like, again, you kind of want to get the lay of the land. And again, this is where you can leverage AI a little bit to help you with it as well. So another question in the Q&A box, and then I saw one coming up during the chat too. When doing your research, if the range you are finding is huge and really, really wide, what should the range be on average? This is a great question. So we like for people to have an ask of no more than like 5K in wiggle room, give or take. So usually it might be like between 2,000 to 5,000, like as a range, if you will. Okay. And obviously this is really situational, but hopefully that helps as a starting point. Tip number 5, let's look at this one, and then I'll start to answer the other questions as we go to. We've said this already, but I want you again to think outside the box in terms of what other perks or benefits would you like to request or would you be willing to accept if they can't get quite to the amount that you want salary wise? Could it be vacation time? Could you say, like, would it be possible in 6 months based on my performance to reevaluate my bottom line compensation? So like a performance-based package or stock options or whatever it is, okay? So keep things open or be open-minded about what you might ask for, okay? The other things that you want to take a look at here, and then I'll answer these other questions that have come through. If you look at the middle of this next slide, in some cases, you may want to be asking for education, working on specific projects. Like you might say to yourself, I really want this other job, even if they can't pay me as well, because I really want to work at this place, or it's going to be a good growth opportunity for me. And some of the things that you can talk with them about as part of the two-way conversation, if we can't get to this amount of salary, can I stretch to work on these types of projects? And we can revisit this in 3 months or 6 months. One of the things that it's worth asking too is how often are performance reviews given and what's the typical bump or, raise that occurs every year, if at all. Like, so you're also looking ahead and saying, okay, even if I can't get exactly where I want to be in a year, I could be to this next level. So make a priorities list for yourself, remember the total package, and be willing to think long-term and big picture. So another person is asking, I work in film and TV and part of a union. Work is limited right now. Asking for a specific amount is tricky because so many people are out of work. How do I negotiate a little above the union rate without jeopardizing my chance to get the job? So I would be having it as a face-to-face or phone call conversation. And it's okay to put like whatever your salary requirement might be. Let's say it's within the union rate or maybe just a slightly above. But during the course of the conversation, you can ask, like we were talking about a moment ago, what's budgeted for this? Is there wiggle room? And showing them and demonstrating why, based on your experience, et cetera, why you deserve more. Being willing to understand that they may not be able to do that, but at least asking. And again, when you're saying, I understand that union rate is this, I would like to ask for this because of ABC, that's a completely reasonable request. Another question in the chat was, during an internship program, is it okay to ask for the potential of a return offer? I would be asking, like, one, you want to find out how long your internship is supposed to last. And I would be asking about a month and a half in advance of when the end date is coming up. You don't want to leave it to the last minute. And you also want to be able to know, like, okay, is it a possibility? And if it's not yet, is there anything I can do in the meantime to make that a possibility and happen? Another person asked, with the new pay transparency laws in place, I've noticed the range posted in a job can be very broad. That does happen. If asked from an employer for a range, how broad, do you suggest? I answered this, I think, already. So let me know if you need more information there, between like 2 and 5K, just like we were saying. And then another question, and we'll go to tip number 6 here too, so you can take a look at that while we're answering. If you're interviewing and don't know the extent or how many rounds of interviews there are, because sometimes there can be a lot or very few, how soon should you ask about the salary and benefit question? So 2 things I would say here. It's a really good question. Number 1, at the beginning of the process of interviewing with them, I would be asking them up front, could you tell me a little bit more about the interview process? What are the next steps? What should I be expecting? Because then you'll know how many meetings there could be. So number 1, that should help with this a little bit. If you've gotten into like the third round of conversations with people by that time, that is a reasonable time to ask, give or take, but at least by 3 is usually kind of my rule of thumb. Probably not before that, but again, if they're having you talk with, it's a screening interview and then you're talking with the manager right then, and they're like, yeah, okay, this is it. Like, you want to ask them what the salary range is. Great questions. Tip number 6 is to be confident. You can have the perfect things to say, the perfect qualifications and everything else. But if you are not coming across in the right way, we all know how that is. You know how you feel and how you perform when you walk into an interview or a networking event and it's like, yeah, I feel really good versus you don't. So make sure that you have ways to boost your confidence prior to every one of these meetings you have regarding your negotiations, even if it's just a phone call. Prepare an affirmation, visualize how you want the conversation to go. Dress for the job you want, not the job you have. And by the way, it is okay to have notes that you refer to during the course of the whole interview process in general. Okay. Most of our clients tell us that they are their biggest obstacle to success. So you want to make sure that you pay attention to this confidence piece. There's a few other things that you want to make sure that you do, and that's listed on the next slide. So number 1 at the very top, when you're negotiating, always lead with your value. It's not about, well, the cost of living or the whatever. Not that those things don't matter, but you want to be leading to why you can help their bottom line. Because I'm able to do X, because I have such expertise in ABC, because of this experience or whatever. Start with that, and that's why you're negotiating. Push aside negative thinking. Get support with this. Practice your ask in front of the mirror. Get coaching on it. Practice it with a friend or family member because you want to get into that zone of where you're very comfortable just saying what you want to say. And you're like, yes, I'm open to discussing options, or this is my ask, and I'm open to discussing this further. I'm open to discussing options with you. So please let me know, is this within the range? Are we realistic right now? If you feel like you need more help with this, especially if your situation is unique, sometimes the advice we give is very specific to people's scenarios. Please feel free to reach out to us about our coaching services. I always offer a free call where you can figure out if it's the right thing for you and we're the right fit. If you do this, please reference that you're from TCU because we do give a discount to alumni, and happy to offer that to you. So 2 more quick questions. If you went to graduate school directly after undergrad and I'm looking for entry-level marketing job, how much of an advantage will my master's degree give me salary-wise? I think this is going to depend a little bit on the type of organization that you're applying to, and it's also going to depend on whether they ask for or require that qualification or not. I think you might be able to ask for a few $1,000s more, give or take, but if it's an entry-level position, they don't always have quite as much wiggle room with those as much. So I wouldn't make huge, big assumptions about it. Not that it's not valuable, but it may be the type of thing that builds upon itself over time. So it kind of depends on which job you're applying to too. Another person asked, and then we'll keep going with the slides and we'll answer the rest of the questions. I have a very unique position that's difficult to soundboard or do comparisons for salary. Work for a boutique creative agency, not really in sales, but it sounds like you do work in business development a little bit. So I wouldn't necessarily be searching for salary ranges based on your exact current job title. You may need to put in there a few different titles and try different things. Like, for example, business development for a creative ad agency or whatever it is, and use AI for this too. But then you could also talk about, client relationships. Try different titles because sometimes your title isn't always the most accurate about what you actually do. So try that as a starting point. Let's look at tip number 7 next, and this is to identify and be clear, be clear on in articulating, and it's funny that that happened right when I'm talking about this, on your soft skills and your leadership strengths as well. Because remember, employers and recruiters, when they're asked at the end of the day why they choose a specific candidate, and it assumes obviously that you have at least some of the qualifications, they choose people based on their soft skills, their ability to motivate other people, work within a team. They want to see that you are a fit within their organization and the environment. So it's important to talk about your leadership, your management strengths, etc. And one of the things you can do during the course of your interview process, it could be before the negotiation, and most likely I would suggest it is, but to help you boost this and boost your ask, it's a really good idea to create a 30, 60, 90-day plan, even if it's really short and sweet and simple. And this is something we work on with our clients because it varies depending on their situation, to present to them about what you would do if you were hired in the first 90 days. In order to identify some of your leadership strengths, you can use this leadership wheel and rank yourself in each area and identify your top 3 areas of strengths. And we also encourage people to use this leadership wheel as well, have other people rank them so that you get that objective opinion too. This is from Development Dimensions International, which is a highly regarded management consulting firm. And remember that if you're using this, and after our session today, not all of the strengths here might be relevant to the job that you're going for. So only reference the ones that are going to be relevant. That's really important. So tip number 8 is to prepare your talking points for the actual conversation. And if it's an in-person interview process, are you going in person and you need to have a copy of your resume just in case? Because, for example, you want to say, I'm asking for this because remember, I've got this experience. You might want to have like a quick little PowerPoint. Our clients who are in marketing like to have the ad campaigns that they worked on as something to help boost their ask. There's a lot of different things that people can use to help prepare for their ask, like in some cases might be their StrengthsFinder results. In some cases, it might be, I've gotten all these testimonials and kudos for my work in A, and this is why I'm asking for B. So lots of different things that you can do to prepare, again, depending on your situation, what your ask is and what you're looking at. Tip number 9 is to be clear on your ask. Know what your bullet points are and don't be wishy-washy. So for example, you want to say, based on this, I'm asking for X. Is this within your range? I'm open to discussing, and then be quiet and wait. Okay, include your range, all this other good stuff here, but make sure that you make the ask and then you don't keep talking because you're nervous. You need to give them a chance to think and process the information. And we did want to do this second poll here, and I should have put it a little bit earlier, but let's go ahead and do it now. How many people have performed salary research to prepare for a negotiation before? So we'll give you a moment to do that. And remember, we want you to research both current and positions you're going for. And let's answer a couple of other questions here while we're doing this. Okay, we answered that one. In negotiations, do you reveal what you currently make? Because I make this currently, I would need to have X. You can if you need to, but I would keep that as your last, not the last resort, like as in desperation, but as part of the last thing. Because again, you want to lead with your value and why you're worth it, not because it's just what you make right now. So you can weave it in as part of your conversation, but a little bit more so towards the end. But it's okay to reference that to them. If, especially, for example, they're balking at your ask, this is what I make now, and this is part of why I'm asking, just to give you a sense of context. So hopefully that answers as a start. If you just graduated, another question, graduated last May and still struggling to land a position, links or websites can do side projects or certificates to help land coursework. So LinkedIn Learning is a good place to find coursework. Coursera is another one that's good. And side projects, you can look at, I can't remember if the website is, they keep getting bought out by other people. Elance.com, guru.com can help you get like side gigs. And also flexjobs.com has flex work and kind of side projects too. So let's take a look at our poll results with the salary research and see where we're at there. And then I'm going to go to tip number 10. Oops, I think I moved it out of the way. Oh, there it is. Okay, cool. Thanks, Diana. Okay, so good. Most people are getting the gist of this and doing the research too. I like that. Remember, you can use AI to help you make some adjustments maybe. And also remember that it's a computer, it's spitting out what it's finding online. So I think most people are more comfortable with this in a good way. And I realize that when you do research, you're going to get ranges, which is why in some cases you want to try different websites, but also talk with people that can help you narrow it down too. Remember, we talked at the very beginning about practicing dealing with red flags. So weave the concerns or your responses, I should say, to their possible concerns into your presentation. Talk about your transferable skills. Talk about the software or the testimonials that you've gotten. People always tell me, I'm great at learning new software very quickly. So we don't want it to get to the point where they're able to voice their objection, that you've woven that into the conversation so well already that they're like, oh, okay, that makes sense. If you are concerned that they're going to be worried about you demanding too high of a salary because you're more experienced or have a master's degree or whatever it is, it's okay to let them know up front, I'm open to negotiating on salary. Or you may say something like, salary is not my highest priority. We always want you, and this answers this next question in the Q&A, we do want you to start at the higher end, because all you can usually go is down. You're not necessarily going to go up. So you should start a little bit higher, anticipating that, yes, they're going to counter most likely with something lower, but you also don't want to price yourself out of the range. Tip number 10 is to practice your ask and get feedback from someone. Videotape yourself. Do this in person with someone, a coach or whatever else it is, to get feedback on not just what you're saying, but how you're coming across. And we'll launch our last poll here for today if we could, and then we'll start moving to our official or formal Q&A at the end. The deal here is that if you get nervous, there may be things that you tend to do. Like if you have a pen in your hand, you may be clicking it the whole time. Some people wave their hands around too much, or, they shift in their chair or whatever. So you need to make sure that you practice in a way that you can get feedback on how you're coming across with your tone, your confidence, and your nonverbals as well, because you may not realize that you do that. As part of your practicing and in the conversation, you want to make sure that you calm your nerves in advance and do things in order to get to a confident, calm mindset. And make sure that you avoid any minimizing expressions like, well, I think I should ask for this, or I think I'm asking for that, or just. Make sure that you're coming across, my joke is that you're coming across like a news anchor. Like, this is your ask, this is why, you feel good about it, and you know that that's your value. And we'll share our poll results if we could for that one too. Okay, so I'm glad that we've got the number that we do, that with 36% that people do have that. That's great. We say to people throughout their career, no matter what stage you're in, it's a great idea to work towards having some kind of mentor. Mentors are different from coaches in that they're usually like, for us as career coaches, we meet with people very regularly, give them a lot of hands-on support. Mentors can usually give you industry-specific insider knowledge within your organization or within your industry, and you may meet with them maybe once a month or once a quarter. Now, as part of conducting the meeting, and this is our last slide before Q&A, make sure that you're tying all of your accomplishments and your value to the bottom line, providing tangible results throughout the interview process of the results you've achieved. Feel free to include testimonials and kudos along the way too. And make sure that you're prepared to provide a range, just like we said, just to be ready to have some wiggle room. Make sure during the course of any negotiation, but also interview process, that you don't make it personal and get mad or frustrated or angry in the moment if you're not getting what you want. Make sure that you don't talk too much and don't bash your previous employer ever either. We just don't want that negative tone. And the things that you can say, we've talked about these a lot already during the course of your conversations. It's okay to say, if I can't have this right now, is there a probability, or can we look at this at a timeline after I'm hired? Is that reasonable? You always want to ask at the close of the conversation, great, thank you for your time. What are the next steps? What do we need to do next here? If you need to think about their counter offer, it's okay to say in that moment, thank you so much for your offer. Can I have a couple of days to sit with it, do a little bit of research and thinking on it? Okay. And always make sure at the end of any conversation, as part of your interview process along the way, that you thank them for their time and ask them about next steps and what the follow-up plan could and should be. So for the person, Henry, who is having trouble with the link, tell me if the QR code works for you for the slides, please. And then a few more questions here, which are great. What is the best method to explain your higher previous salary versus this one of interest due to a later career journey? So I think this is probably easier than you realize, is just to say, this is what I was paid because of my experience in this field or whatever it is. What I'm going for now and interested in at this stage of my career is I want this next challenge or sense of fulfillment, or to be leveraging my strengths in a different way. So it's not a bad thing to say, I was paid this, but I'm willing to accept this. And I'm confident that this is the choice I want to make. I will be challenged and I would like to stay here longer. Gosh, the QR code in I am so sorry about the problems here. So let me do this if we could. Let me put in my email address. I did test these beforehand and I don't know why. Diana, if you could put my email address in the chat for everybody, that would be great, because then I can figure out what's going on with the slides. How do I know, another question, how do I know if I negotiated well, hoping to avoid inadvertently underselling myself? You'll know based on your research and talking with other people, really. You could do a little bit of research online and ask AI kind of what the range is, but really the best way to know is kind of know what the range is for that position in your geographic location, and also within that industry too. How should you approach yearly performance reviews if you're not necessarily asking for a raise or promotion, but want to be prepared in the event you don't receive annual inflation or merit-based raise? So this is good. So with your yearly performance reviews, no matter what, it's not just about how am I doing, and do I need to fix things, or what do I need to improve, etc. It's also about making sure that you're selling yourself. And so when you're in a performance review, every time you want to make sure that you're checking in with your boss about, how am I doing? Am I meeting expectations? Am I achieving the goals you want me to achieve? And how am I being measured? And making sure too that the performance review is not just all about, all the things that I need to fix and, make better, etc. But it's also about what I've done well. Be prepared to bring that up too. Okay. So hopefully that answers. Diana, I just put another link that maybe will work for the slides. If you could do that. I know it's really long, but let's see. That one works on my end. So let me know if that one works for you guys. And then Diana, as we're waiting for any other questions or comments to come through, or Terrence, either way, is there anything that you all would like to say? And if you wouldn't mind testing my link too and clicking on it and seeing if it works for you, because I don't know what's going on.
The link works for me, so hopefully it works for everybody else. But yes, I did get a question. Someone is asking what the coaching experience is like working with you all.
Yeah, no, thanks for asking that. And for those of you, like the link is working for some people or not, please take my email address down. Happy to email what you need. Sorry about the confusion there. In terms of coaching with us, so I always do the free consult first to identify if it's the right fit and help figure out what package or option might be best for you. We usually do live coaching with people where it's once a week, every other week. There's a lot of resources that we provide. Our coaches take notes during the calls. There's homework, action steps, and a lot of good talk time as well. And you can purchase bundles of sessions of either 4 or 6 sessions. In some cases too, we have 2 session ones as well. So yeah, I don't know. Yeah, just the people that are having trouble with the links, I'm so sorry about that because it is working on my end, but there could be something going on with technology. Please feel free to email me at admin@createyourcareerpath and just let us know what you need and we'll get you that. All right, so we have one other question, if we have time, Diana, just really quickly. How do you approach title change requests only when it may appear as if it's only to better market yourself for an external role? That can be a little bit funky. So I totally get that, but it can also, for some people, remember, it can also be about like, I, want greater responsibility, or it's something that you can say or share, I would like this title change if possible, because I feel like it will give me a little bit more kind of clout within the organization, perhaps, in order to, make decisions and have like, the official, like, I don't want to say power, but you know what I mean. So let them know that it's more about that for you. Don't assume they're always going to think that you're looking for a new job. And I think that's all we have time for today. So I think we need to get going. For the remote positions, the range would still be a little bit where you're based geographically, but a lot of times remote positions might pay a little bit less because they consider remote as a perk. And yeah, email to download the slides, Zoho account. Yeah, there's a problem with the links. Just email me. Okay, Diana and Terrence, do you want to say anything before we go?
Terrence, do you have anything?
Oh, just want to thank everyone for attending. Hallie, thank you so much for the session. And I just dropped a line in the chat for alums who would like to meet with the TCU Career Center. We also offer salary negotiation appointments and just use Handshake to make an appointment. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a great day, everybody. Good luck.
All right, thank you all again for a wonderful webinar. I know this will be very helpful to people that want to learn how to negotiate their salary. And like Terrence mentioned, his information is available in the chat. He's a valuable tool for your career needs. We will be sending you a follow-up email with a recording of today's session. And again, we appreciate your time. Thank you again, Hallie and Terrence. We look forward to seeing you all soon. Go Frogs.
Go
Go
Frogs.
Frogs.